Today on Passion for Food, I'm going to show you one of my favorite dinner pastabilities, this wonderful spaghetti meat sauce, and we're going to be making it on a budget. Because a quality home-cooked meal doesn't have to break the bank, and believe it or not, I made this gigantic serving for less than $1.50. Now, hey, you might think that's impossible, but I'll show you how. Let's go ahead and get started. Now, the real key to doing this on a budget is our meat. I found these beautiful bottom round roasts on sale for $1.99 a pound, believe it or not, which just seemed crazy, so I bought a whole bunch of these things. I figured I could grind some and roast some, but this particular one is turning into a giant pot of spaghetti sauce. So let's go ahead and hit the round running and get this sliced up. And one of the big things I liked about these when I was looking at them in the store is they had a fair bit of fat on them, so that'll make them ideal for grinding. And while I'm doing this, I would tell you a joke about my friend Fred the legless cow, but hey, that's ground beef. Terrible dad jokes aside, if you're not already, grinding your own meat is probably that one thing you're missing to really up your burger and sauce game. So let's set that aside and prepare our aromatics. And for this, I'm using a pretty classic combination of 4 ribs of celery, 1 large carrot. Even though I'm using the food processor here, I do like to give these a little bit of a pre-chop. I'm looking for nice, small, even pieces. Along with 2 large onions, roughly chopped, and 1 full head of garlic. So we'll just take this for a quick spin, pulsing on and off until we have everything chopped up into nice, fine little pieces. I don't really want big chunks of carrot in my final spaghetti sauce. And once we reach our particular processed particle preference, we can go ahead and make this sauce. And we do want a nice big pot for the spaghetti sauce. I have over 4.5 pounds of beef here, let's not forget. It already has a fair bit of fat, so I'm not going to be adding any olive oil or anything like that, but we do need to season this properly. 2 of the easiest mistakes to make in the kitchen is under-seasoning and overcooking, and especially with the amount of beef we have here, you're going to need more salt than you think. You want to aim for about 2 teaspoons of salt per pound of ground beef, and pepper to taste. And in we go with our finely diced celery, carrots, onions, and garlic. So let's just begin cooking this over high heat. And even though I didn't put any additional fat into the pan because we seasoned our meat and we have all of those vegetables in there, I'm not too worried about anything sticking to the bottom. Actually, the fat from our beef is going to render out and provide all the oil we're going to need in this recipe. And while I was cooking, I noticed a big chunk here that must have been hiding out somewhere. Well, I don't care at all for that, so we'll just pull that out of there. And we'll go ahead and dump in about 4 tablespoons of Italian seasoning. That's mostly rosemary, oregano, and thyme. About 1 tablespoon per pound of beef. And hey, that reminds me of this belt-fed herb dispenser that I came up with. But my buddy told me it was really just a waste of time. Okay, time to get serious. We're going to go in here with 3 cans of stewed tomatoes. Those are 3 15-ounce cans, along with 2 of these 6-ounce cans of tomato paste. Now, I know it might look like a lot of tomatoes going in here, but keep in mind this is less than 1 can each per pound of beef, so this is really not a very tomato-heavy spaghetti sauce recipe. So let's go ahead and get that all mixed up and cooking. And then we want to go ahead and add 3 or 4 cups of water. And if you would like to add about a cup of wine to the sauce, this would be the perfect time. Ultimately, we're looking for enough liquid in the pot here to cover our ground beef and tomatoes. Once this comes up to a simmer for us, we can go ahead and slap on the lid, and we simply want to simmer this on low for a minimum of 1 hour, but preferably 2. So while that's simmering away, let's have a look at the budget for our spaghetti sauce. As we can see, as long as you get a good deal on that beef, everything else is gravy. And even allowing for generous portions, you should get at least 15 servings out of this, making each serving of this fantastic spaghetti sauce only about 90 cents. Anyway, while people check to see if my math makes sense, let's go ahead and make our pasta with 2 cups of flour, 1 pinch of salt, and 3 large eggs. Yes, I'm making standard Italian style pasta today. Me and my wife really love the excellent flavor that it has. Depending on your eggs, your flour, and your humidity, you might need another splash of water to get that to come together into a dough ball for you. And I'm just going to switch to my dough hook here for the last leg of the journey. After letting it knead for 4 or 5 minutes, it should be soft, smooth, and not sticky to the touch. Once we have that, we do want to set this aside covered in plastic wrap to rest for at least 20 minutes. Now, you might be tempted to skip this part, but trust me, that gluten we developed really needs it, dough. Seriously though, that helps the dough to relax and it'll make it easier to cut and give it a better texture later on when we're eating it. So while that's resting up, let's do the most important step, and that is to actually taste for seasoning. We just want to adjust as necessary with salt and Italian seasoning, and if the sauce is a little too tart, we can add just a teaspoon or 2 of sugar. But the seasoning on this was good, so let's slap the lid back on and go finish our fresh pasta. So here we are on a nicely floured surface, and I just like to cut these into 8 mostly even pieces. Man, those ninjutsu classes are really paying off. Anyway, once we have those cut, I just like to flatten them out a little with my hand before we get rolling. I like to use setting number 4 on the pasta roller, but as far as what that is mathematically, I would say quite thin. And we'll go ahead and cut these. Now, could you simply buy a box of spaghetti? Well, of course you could, but it just wouldn't be as fun. On top of the fun factor, the texture of fresh pasta is very different than the dried boxed pasta. If you've never tried it, you really should. So let's go ahead and grab some and dump it straight into our pot of boiling salted water. And the cooking process is also different with fresh pasta. We really only want to cook this about 2 minutes. I would say once the water comes back up to a boil, our fresh pasta is ready to pull out and drain. And now that I have you folks all steamed up, let's go ahead and grab a plate of this beautiful fresh pasta and spaghetti sauce. Overall, I think this is probably my favorite meal, and I really like mine with a little melted sharp cheddar cheese on top, but you top yours however you would like. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Passion for Food. If you have, give me a thumbs up below and consider subscribing and hitting that little bell so you don't miss our future episodes. And check out one of our other great recipes playing on the screen now. This has been Graham with Passion for Food.